everyone, and welcome to another episode of Motorboating with Mammeries. This is Tanks for the Mammeries, and today we have a World of Warships replay sent in by one of the subscribers to the channel. It is TankMaster number 17, and he's going to be playing a Tier 7 Ranger aircraft carrier in a Tier 8 battle. There's going to be some Tirpitzes, Mammeries, a couple of New Mexicos in there on the enemy team, some Clevelands. It's a pretty evenly matched fight. This is one of those battles where there's 4 capture points, and we're going to see some really good textbook play from TankMaster number 17. We're just going to call him number 17 for this video here. But we're going to see him, use his torpedo bombers, his attack aircraft, in pretty much just outstanding fashion. So let's get started with the battle, shall we? So one of the things I want you guys to notice, and even if you don't play aircraft carriers, it's good to watch this because you can see what a good aircraft carrier driver does, how he uses his aircraft, and what you need to do to avoid being a victim of a guy who knows what he's doing like this, or at least make it harder for him to kill you. So the enemy aircraft carrier, as you can see, has already started bringing his attack aircraft down to both spot the destroyer squadron on the team, as well as, or the destroyer division on the team, as well as begin to start making some runs. And what's happened here is that number 17 has kept his fighter aircraft over his own fleet at this point in time. He's not sent them out. He's kept his fighter aircraft back over his own fleet in order to allow his aircraft to work with his ships in defeating those attack squadrons as they come in. One thing about World of Warships, and I think you guys who play this game often enough will agree with me, when a friendly ship is firing its anti-aircraft guns at enemy attack aircraft, if you, as a carrier driver, fly your fighters in to help defend those ships, your anti-aircraft guns will not hit your own planes. Obviously, in real life, if you were flying an airplane into friendly ship cover, chances are, if you were chasing the bad guys, you'd get hit by your own anti-aircraft fire because it's not all that accurate. But in the case of this game, that does not happen, so there's no reason for you to not fly your fighter planes over your own ships and help them defeat enemy attack aircraft. Now, right here, we're about to see a pretty textbook maneuver. You've got a dive bomber squadron who came in to set the ship up, and right after that, the torpedo squadron came in and put a whole boatload, whole squadron load of torpedoes into that Tirpitz and hit it pretty hard. The torpedo squadron, in this case, does about 52,000 damage per wave, and he got all of the torpedoes off there. He didn't sink the Tirpitz because the Tirpitz has about almost 70,000 hit points, 69,000 hit points. But he obviously took a tremendous amount of health off that Tirpitz pretty quickly into the game here. That was a manual torpedo drop he made, and again, he used his dive bomber squadron to set the ship up to hold a course, and then he came in with his torpedo squadron immediately after. And that does 2 things. One, it gets the ship to commit to a course for your torpedo aircraft to then drop torpedoes on. And 2, it can set a fire. It can affect the enemy aircraft, anti-aircraft fires, so that they're concentrating on the torpedo bombers and not on the dive bombers and not the torpedo squadron. And we're going to see that again in a little bit. We'll take another look at it. In the meantime, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but number 17 has continued to move his ship. He's continuing to watch the development of the action of the fight as he's projecting both his fighter aircraft to go after the enemy attack aircraft, as well as to keep his ship on the move. A lot of carrier drivers just park their ship somewhere and send their planes out over and over and over again. There's a couple of things with that good carrier drivers know about, and the reason they don't just park their ship somewhere is because you want to keep your ship close to the action so that your aircraft do not have a tremendous amount of time flying back and forth to load and reload and things like that. And also, You don't want your ship sitting still in case destroyers come in or something like that. You always want to be moving. So where we're at now is, again, you can see his fighter squadrons are still going after the enemy dive bomber squadron. And one thing you'll notice here is that the enemy carrier's loadout does not have a whole lot in the way of fighter aircraft. They have primarily, I think, pretty much have nothing but dive bombers and torpedo bombers. So, the enemy carrier driver has been sending out his attack aircraft in single waves. In other words, just one squadron at a time to attack number 17's fleet. And, when I first saw this, I thought to myself, well, that's really, he probably should have done 2 at a time like 17 was doing. But it's been pointed out to me, and it does make sense, that if all you have are attack aircraft, you might as well send them out in single groups to get as much projected power against the enemy as possible. But it does take a toll on your aircraft, because if, like you see here, number 17 has got fighter aircraft, he can then vector them onto your squadrons, as he's done here, and really take a tremendous toll on shooting down your planes. At the end of the fight, we're going to see exactly how much damage that number 17 has done here. At this point in the battle, the enemy team is ahead, not by much, but ahead, and we've already seen that 17 side has lost a couple of destroyers already. So the enemy is certainly ahead on points, but it's not going to take a long time. Now, then I saw this part, and I was like, wait a minute, what is this ship doing? And I realized he's actually sailing backwards, which is probably not something you want to be doing. He's certainly not paying attention to the aircraft coming in. And this is what I was talking about. Look carefully here. You've got the dive bomber squadron going in first. The anti-aircraft fire starts working on the dive bomber squadron. The ship is concentrating on that. The torpedo squadron is right there. He manually launches. You can see them. They're all going to go in. They're pretty much all going to hit this guy. And this guy obviously had no idea what he was doing, and he took every single one of those and lost basically 2/3 of his health. That was, again, a textbook attack aircraft maneuver on an isolated battleship. Battleship drivers, watch that again, because you do not want to be that guy. There's not a whole lot that he could have done, the driver could have done differently once the setup was done like that, but if he had been going forward at high speed, he might not have taken all of those torpedoes. He might have taken, 3, whatever, but he also did not concentrate his anti-aircraft fire on the most dangerous threat, which was the torpedo bombers. If you've got both of these guys coming at you, a dive bomber squadron and a torpedo bomber squadron, concentrate your fire on the torpedo squadron. Here we see that, again, as I talked about earlier, the fighter squadron protecting his own ships by going after that dive bomber squadron. And that does 2 things. One, it disturbs the attack aircraft pilots, so they're less accurate, along with your anti-aircraft fire from your ships. And also, the more aircraft you can take out, the less hitting power that happens later on in the battle from that other carrier. So he's got his torpedo bombers and dive bombers going back to reload. He's staying in the fight. As you can see, he's now moved up the 1-2 line. He's about halfway up the map from where he started out. And he's continuing to do nothing but watch what's happening in overview. You notice that he has never once at this point gone back to actually look at his own ship. He's always stayed in the overhead view. And I think this is one reason that a lot of people don't like to play carrier battles, because they this isn't the same sort of fight that you see with dive bombers and things like that. I mean, with the battleships and things like that. He's going after the dive bombers now. His fighter squadron is attacking both of those guys, trying to throw them off, and also trying to make the other carrier driver do something with his bombers other than go after this destroyer here. But you can see there's all 3 enemy dive bomber squadrons there. There's only 1 fighter squadron. He's doing the best he can do. And he is, his pilots are taking return fire. He's only got a couple of planes left alive there, but he's doing everything he can to harass those guys to keep them off that destroyer. Anyway, so a lot of people don't like this sort of top-down view. It is difficult to play. You've got to get used to it. But, this is how carrier pilots, carrier drivers see the world through their pilots' eyes. And they have to have fantastic map awareness, great situational awareness, and you also have to really plan your attacks with your aircraft, because there's nothing worse than sending your planes 3/4 of the way across the map and have them not be effective when they drop torpedoes or bombs or whatever. And so, you know, it's a wasted shot. It's a couple of minutes to get your aircraft back and start over again. So the fight's still, fairly even in the number of ships. The enemy's got a few more, but and the enemy has definitely got more points at this point in time. Not only with the number of bases they've captured, but also the number of ships they've sunk. So they're actually ahead a little bit here, but it's going to change. It's going to change fairly quickly, and you see some low health ships there. And at this point in time, you've got a dive bomber squadron coming in by itself to go after that low health ship. There's a torpedo squadron over to the left, and it's hanging out just in case it's needed. But what's going to happen is dive bomber squadron takes care of that low health ship, so that wipes one guy off the board. Now, they didn't need the torpedo squadron, so he's going to figure out what to do with that guy, and lo and behold, they found the enemy aircraft carrier. So, the enemy's got basically one fighter squadron there, but the torpedo planes are on the way, and there's not going to be a whole lot this carrier can do about it at this time. So, again, he had sent out both attack squadrons together, found a target of opportunity that he realized if he took it off the board fairly quickly, that would be helpful for points and for power projection. And now he's making his run on the enemy carrier. He put out a good set of torpedoes. The carrier's trying to maneuver, but he's just not going to make it in time, and that is going to be a very painful blow to the enemy team. So that's a devastating strike, and at this point in time, he put 5 torpedoes into that guy. He's having a really good game here, as you can see. So that's a devastating strike. Now he's getting his torpedo bombers on the way back. He's going to reload those again, and the score, with that, pretty much the score changed, and it's never gonna come back into the enemy team's favor. So far we've seen 2 really outstanding textbook drops on the 2 Tirpitzes, the Tier 8 German premium battleships. We've seen using his fighters with his own ship's anti-aircraft fire to enhance the effective destruction of enemy attack squadrons. He's done a textbook drop and kill on that enemy aircraft carrier. He's kept his fighters early in the game over his own team, and after doing some pretty good whittling down of the enemy attack squadrons, he's now begun to send his fighters out to continue to map enemy positions. He's been using his dive bombers and his torpedo bombers together, which I think is an extremely effective tactic. And, as I said before, if you are the victim of one of these attacks, you need to focus your attention on the torpedo bombers, because you get hit by the dive bombers, fine, they're going to set some fires, they're going to do a little bit of damage, but you really need to be maneuvering to ward off the torpedo bombers, because those are the guys that are going to do the most damage to you, and those are the ones you need to be paying attention to and to put your anti-aircraft fire against. If you waste it on the dive bombers and then use a repair while you're on fire and then the torpedoes come in, you're screwed. So really need to be guarding against torpedoes and flooding more than you do the dive bombers. That may change someday in the game. Dive bombers may become more effective. I hope they do. I hope they start having armor-piercing bombs, because in real life, dive bombers were extremely effective. In this game, they're not so much. That may be a balance issue, but I would like them to see. I would like to see dive bombers become more effective. Another thing you need to notice is you need to stick together with other ships on your team to support each other with anti-aircraft fire. And as a carrier driver, I think that the loadouts make a huge difference in how you play the game. My opinion is you ought to be able to pick your own loadouts. A lot of people disagree with that. I think number 17 would disagree with that. But I think that, if you make a choice and you carry more torpedo bombers or more dive bombers than you do other groups, it can affect your gameplay. But I do think that, it would be good to be able to pick the total number of squadrons of each that you want to carry, as opposed to using default settings that the game gives you. Here you go, you see him doing a dive bomber attack on that ship. Doesn't really get anything from that, but He's still harassing this guy with low health. And the enemy just has 4 ships left at this time. And now 17's team is ahead of the curve. They've got more points. It's still a relatively close game. They could lose this, but it's not likely that they are. So he's sending out his torpedo squadron. He's keeping his fighters with him. There's obviously no enemy aircraft left on the map to worry about from an attack standpoint. But again, he's still carrying 2 squadrons to attack a ship, because what he wants to do is have that ship focus on one, divide its anti-aircraft attention between the 2 squadrons to allow himself to be more accurate in the delivery of the torpedoes. So you can see here they come together, and he's going to go ahead and make this drop. And this is going to be pretty much it for this ship. And I think this is where he gets the high caliber. So he makes another manual drop there. Outstanding drop on that ship. I mean, he just is so good with his torpedoes. It's really a pleasure to watch this, because it's not me that's getting torpedoed. But that was high caliber. And, at this point in time, this game is pretty much over. So, again, takeaway messages from this game. The moral of the story is, if you are under attack by enemy aircraft, watch the torpedo bombers. Stick together with other ships in your fleet so that you can use enhanced anti-aircraft fire against the incoming attack squadrons. Do not be a battleship off by yourself, especially if you're going in reverse. I don't know what that guy at the Turpets was doing. And, support your friendly aircraft carriers. Make sure that, you're giving him the opportunity to get out there and project his power for you. As you can see in this game, number 17 was able to do some really significant damage against the enemy battleships consistently throughout the game, because A, he protected his own ships with his fighter aircraft, and B, he was using his attack squadrons effectively to ensure that he was projecting as much power as he could. Anyway, let's take a look at the post-game stats. This is pretty much the end of this battle. He's going to wipe that guy out. As you can see, almost 400,000 credits. A little over 7,500 experience there, right at 7,500 experience. 2 achievements, and there he is. Sank 4 ships, shot down 14 aircraft, did a really, really good job there, and, pretty much a textbook game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want to send in replays for me to take a look at, please do. The information is in the description at the bottom of this video. This is Tanks for the Mammeries, Motorboating for Mammeries, playing World of Warships, subscriber replay from TankMaster number 17. Thank you so much for sending in this replay. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did as well. Take care. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.